Hi everyone, and welcome to this video. I'm attempting the Draw This Again challenge, and I didn't initially intend for this to be a Draw This Again video because I'd forgotten that I've drawn cloud before, back in 2015 when I'd just started using markers, and I was working on smaller drawings back then, and I wasn't spending much time on each of the marker drawings I was working on because I didn't have much confidence with markers at that point. So I thought it would be really nice to look back at that drawing and hopefully see some of the improvements I've made since then. That was my hope anyway. And as I mentioned, I'm working on a drawing of Cloud Strife. The Final Fantasy VII Remake was released recently and I was so excited about it, and I wanted to make sure I worked on a drawing to celebrate that. As you can see, after working on the pencil sketch, I started adding the outlines with a Copic Multiliner SP 0.03 and a 0.1, and I was trying to add variations to the thickness of the lines, so adding thick outlines around his eyes and his eyelashes to really make them stand out, and then much finer and lighter line work around the outside of his face. I didn't want to add bold outlines across the whole drawing because I feel like that would end up flattening the drawing, and it could take away from the shading and the highlighting and their effect that I wanted to add later on in the process. For the colouring, I used Copic markers and Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils, and I started by working on the skin tones. adding the lighter tones first with a pinkish white marker, building up layers with this, and just getting an idea of where I was going to place the darker shading. Then for the darker shading, I added layers of light grape and pale grape markers, and also after that I added pale heath to some of the highlighted areas. And eventually I also added a light layer of grey shading to the darker shaded areas with the cool grey markers. And I also want to mention, for any highlighting in this drawing, I relied on a white Faber-Castell pencil and a white Sakura GellyRoll pen. For his lips, I used a mixture of baby blossoms, light grape, pale grape, and peach markers. Then I also used a rose carmine pencil to add some warm colouring around some of the outlines in the shaded areas. And after that, I added cool grey shading to the white areas of his eyes, and then for the bright blue colouring, I blended between frost blue, pale blue, and night blue, making sure to leave some bright highlights, and then making those highlights even brighter with the white pen. And then for his eyebrows, I used a soft sun marker along with a little bit of cool grey shading, and then I added some of the individual hairs with the grey and white pencils. To add the colouring to his hair, I started by adding a layer of grey shading first, using the cool grey markers again, ranging between cool grey 1, 3, 5 and 7. Then I started adding the colouring on top of this shading, with soft sun and cotton pearl markers. And eventually, once I'd added all the marker colouring to his hair, I used a cadmium orange pencil to add some bright colouring to the tips of his hair. And I also added some highlighting to make some areas stand out in front of all the shading I'd added previously. And I tried to add a bit more shading in some areas to really push the contrast between those shadows and those highlights, and hopefully adding a bit more depth. For his clothing, I mainly used the black and cool grey markers, but then I built up layers with the white pencil, and then again adding more layers with markers, to try and add some layered texture. And I also added a bit of light walnut marker in a few areas. And finally, I added some scratch marks to his shoulder pad with the white and black pencils. And after that, this drawing was completed. Looking back at my drawing from 2015 and comparing that to this drawing, I'm really happy to see the result, because I'm definitely feeling a bit more confident with markers now, much more confident than I did back then. I've been feeling a bit rusty with markers recently because it's been quite a while since I last worked on any marker portrait drawings like this, so this drawing took a bit longer than I expected it to, but I'm so glad I tried this project because it feels so nice to look back every now and then and see your improvements over time. I highly recommend everyone try this challenge occasionally because it's a nice confidence booster, and I feel like it's definitely worthwhile. Be sure to let me know what you think of this in the comments below, and also let me know if you have any suggestions for future drawings I should try, or any art challenges or tutorials. Your suggestions really help me out. If you want to see more stuff like this, then feel free to subscribe to my channel, and any likes or shares on this video are hugely appreciated. If you want to follow and support my art progress, then be sure to check out the links in the description for my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and Patreon. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you all soon.